On September 14th, Google announced that they are releasing the September 2023 helpful content update. So this is going to be rolling out over the next 2 weeks. If we click on the information about the September 2023 helpful content update, you'll see it'll take about 2 weeks to complete. So you probably won't see any rankings changes at the time of this video, but within a couple weeks and within a couple weeks after that, you should have a good idea of how basically Google looks at the content on your website and whether or not your entire website is helpful with the topics that you are covering. So if we come back over here and we click on the helpful content update, we can get some more information about what Google is actually looking for. It's a very quick article to read, but basically the main takeaway is if you're producing helpful content, you don't need to do anything. This system should be good for your website, designed to reward helpful content. One thing to keep in mind is if you do have thin pages of content on your website, Google is also going to weigh those when they're looking at all of your pages of content and whether or not your website in general creates helpful content. So you'll see they have a help page here about how to create helpful, reliable, people-first content, and that will help you understand, okay, what is Google looking for when I am trying to create content for my website? So I'm going to start this video by going over some different tips that I would recommend for all Google updates, and I've broken some of these rules myself, so these are tips that I need to also continue to follow. But number one, first and foremost, is create helpful content. You should not be focused on content quantity really at all. You should be focused on how much quality content you can create. If it takes you 2 days to write a really helpful blog post, you're better off doing that than spending 2 days writing 5 unhelpful blog posts, because over time, those blog posts just aren't going to rank. So the more time and energy that you're putting into blog posts, ultimately the better your website is going to rank, because Google's going to say, okay, this blog went from having 100 average blog posts, and now they have 200 very, very helpful blog posts. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically rank all of these pages higher, because when this website writes content, they are writing very helpful content about the topics that they cover. Number two is keep content up to date and relevant. So if you have old content, which I do, this is something I'm going back to fix. This is something I'm trying to improve, in addition to thin pages of content on my website. So I'll go over a couple examples of things on my website. Might as well go over them now. So I recently had this blog post here that I updated. So September 12th, 2023. It's currently September 16th, 2023. But what I did is I went to my blog post, and before I updated it, here's the page I'm looking for. So before I updated it, it was Google Ads ad extensions, my complete 2020 guide. Now, I have not prioritized my Surfside PPC blog, and it's something I'm working on prioritizing, so it takes a lot of work to update old content, especially when you have things from 2020, 2021, a lot of old content that needs to be updated. So this article here, content quality versus content quantity, which is better? I will go over the best way to handle updating old blog posts, but for this one here, I went in and I completely just basically removed every single last image, piece of content, and just started fresh. So what I'm trying to do now when I'm writing content is in the very first paragraph, go over basically a little bit of my experience with using whatever the topic is about. In this case, Google Ads assets, which were previously called ad extensions. So I still have this in the title because a lot of people still call them ad extensions. That a lot of people haven't made the complete shift to calling site link extensions, site link assets. But what I'm trying to do is create a lot of helpful content for Google Ads as they roll out a new interface as well. So I can take the new interface and start to update a lot of the screenshots on my website, go through and make sure that all of my blog posts, especially when we're going over how to add assets in Google Ads, making sure that this actually reflects the new Google Ads experience. So obviously a lot of content for me to update, but also gives me a huge opportunity. If I can update this content first, make it helpful, then what it's going to do is help me rank. So I went through on this page, and you can see I changed types of Google Ads assets, and then I have site link, call out. I have images basically for every type of asset here. Call assets, we have location assets, affiliate location, no image for that one. Price assets, app assets, lead form assets, and then we have 5 benefits of using them, and then some best practices here as well. So I want to continue adding to the best practices a little bit, and I can definitely improve this blog post, but as of right now, I think it's pretty good overall blog post, especially once I record a video and add a video to it. So my goal is to basically take a topic and make sure that if I were someone who didn't know this topic at all, I can come to my page, easily read through it and understand it. I'm actually working on improving the overall user experience on my website, so I'm going to be installing a new theme. All comes back to trying to create helpful content that's up to date, relevant, trying to fix some of these thin pages of content on my website. Incorporating personal experience and your expertise. This is really important. So obviously Google looks at the EEAT signals. One of the major changes that Google has actually made is they want content to be written by somebody with experience or reviewed by somebody with experience. So if you're somebody who works in advertising and you're writing about advertising, you are the perfect person to be writing about this content. And what you want to do is not just write a blog post talking about specific topics, but also incorporate information that only you would know based on your experience. So I can say, okay, yeah, with Google Ads Assets, I worked with a university and I recommended that they added structured snippets and put all the different degree programs that they offer. So that's one area where Google can actually look at your page and say, okay, this page goes over Google Ads Assets. This page gives specific examples of different things that you can do based on what industry you're in or what you're trying to sell. All of that can be very helpful for a Google update. Now, a couple different things. When updating pages and changing the publish date, you want to make significant changes to the blog post. So in the example I just gave you, I basically completely rewrote this page. So when I update this to September 12th, 2023, which was previously a date in 2020, Google is going to look at that date. And if I, for example, come into this content quality versus content quantity blog post, this was last updated May 28th, 2020. Obviously, dropped the ball with my own Surfside PPC blog at times because I've been focused more on my channel and honestly running ads for clients. So sometimes it's the blog takes a back burner, but I'm really focused on it now. So what I need to not do is just basically come in here and say, okay, let's update the date to today's September 16th. We'll update the date and basically change nothing. So Google officially announced that they don't really care exactly what this date is. Obviously, you want this date to be more recent, but if you're just updating dates, then they're not going to give that any type of ranking help or improvement whatsoever. They're still going to be looking at the actual content that you're writing, all the images, content, everything you have on the page, and whether or not you made any significant changes. So if the page is currently ranking at the top of search results and you want to say, okay, we're going to update it and just update the year and maybe we'll add a little bit of fresh content, that's perfectly fine. For a page like this that's not ranking high and not really getting much traffic, if I just change the date, it's not going to do anything. So making sure you're making significant changes to your blog post. Then you want to improve content that is dropped in the search results. Use Google Search Console to do this, so I'll show you a few examples in a minute. And last but not least, one of the really big updates is you can use AI content. So Google is not just outright penalizing AI content, but it does need to be reviewed thoroughly, and you should improve it, not just copy and paste it to your blog. So if you're taking a topic, any topic that it is, let's just say Google Ads Assets, for example, and I go to any type of AI writing tool and I just say, can you write me a blog post about Google Ads Assets? Copy, paste, add no images, add no personal experience, add literally nothing just besides that copy and pasted content. Google is saying you can do that. We're probably not going to penalize your website, but your website's not going to rank because ultimately it's not going to be helpful. So what Google has released in this recent update, a very, very small but definitely related to AI and machine-generated content, but previously it said Google Search Helpful Content System generates a signal used by our automated ranking systems to better ensure people see original, helpful content, and here's the key part, written by people for people in search results is now saying content created for people in search results. So you still want to create helpful content for people, but what they're saying is you can use AI written content, and Google's probably saying this because it can be very hard to tell apart AI written content and human written content if it has been reviewed thoroughly and edited. So there are a lot of really good AI writing tools at this point that can make writing sound completely natural. And what Google is probably reacting to is saying that's fine that people are using that, but there also should be personal experience in the blog post. There should be a lot of unique, I would say, visual content, whether it's videos, images, infographics. It could be you linking out to a PDF file, a CSV file. It could be anything that basically enhances the written content. So copying and pasting a blog post is not going to be the best strategy. But if you do something like, for example, my Google Ads Assets example here, and you have images, I'm eventually going to record a video, you have screenshots for how to add assets in Google Ads, still need to add that. But if you're doing all of that and you're spending hours and hours on these blog posts, just basically enhancing them, it's really going to help you rank in the long term. So the other thing that I've kind of focused on is I recently wrote this blog post, Search Engine Marketing Ads and Top Platforms. If we come down here, I have a YouTube video that I recorded after I wrote the blog post, go over the different ad types, use images for the different ad types, and then going over the top platforms. What are they? Why test them? Incorporate some other helpful tutorials within this blog post. Still want to add a Microsoft advertising tutorial here and a Pinterest ads tutorial here. Add my video playlist at the end, short conclusion, and we have a pretty helpful blog post overall for people who are interested in understanding more about search engine marketing ads. Now, coming over to Google Search Console, one of the things I like to do, and if you go right now and you're comparing dates, because the August core update started on, I believe, the 16th. If we just compare the last 28 days to the previous period, but basically you could take the time period from when the September core update started, and we're probably better off waiting until the entire helpful content update rolls out, but you can still do these comparisons and just look at last 28 days compared to the previous period. And what I like to do is look at what pages have increased, what pages have decreased, and have an understanding of why certain things may have decreased. Looking at these ones here, these are definitely just things that I need to update these blog posts. So go in, update the images, maybe make sure I have my most recent tutorials for all of these different pages that I've created. I know the SEO competitive analysis article is a good article, but I haven't updated it in several years. So definitely something that needs to be updated, even if the content is still pretty relevant. But just coming in here, looking at impressions or click drops can be really helpful for specific pages or for specific search terms. So I actually started writing more about search engine marketing because I noticed that that was one of the search terms that had one of the biggest impressions and clicks drops for me. So if you're seeing some of these big drops in impressions or clicks, now anywhere you see a 0 like this, that generally means the information is not correct. So you could always click on these and get more information just to make sure. But basically what I'm trying to do is see the search terms and pages that I've dropped on my website, Surfside PPC. I didn't see any major differences from the core update. I saw a slight drop, but basically my traffic is pretty much back to where it was. But where I'm seeing some of these drops, for example, Google Trends 2023, sometimes what I do first is say, okay, how many blog posts about Google Trends do I have on my website? In my case, I think I had 1 or 2, so it's just not enough content about a very large topic. So not only do I want to create a really helpful page about Google Trends, but also create some supporting articles as well, finding some of those long tail keywords and making sure that I'm writing additional helpful content that will hopefully rank high in the search engine results pages. Now, if we come over here real quick to kind of finish off the video, a few of the different things that I would recommend. We went over our 7 tips before, so that's really what I would focus on. But I would read through this page. You could look at the different updates that Google has released in the past. The August core update is completely released, so you should have an understanding of how that impacted your website. The helpful content update, I think the main thing I'm focused on, and you have to understand once Google does release these updates, and if you do see a drop in your Google Search Console data, what that means is basically you just come in here and make sure you're going through your blog posts, making sure that everything is as helpful as possible. You can quickly recover ranking. So it's not like Google's hitting you with a penalty. They're basically saying if you get hit by the helpful content update, it is Google's way of saying, okay, you need to improve your current content. And once you improve your current content and you continuously improve your current content, maybe add some new content, then what you can do is you will start to see those rankings return and you will get back to basically the increasing rankings that you may have saw beforehand. So this is my video about the September helpful content update that Google just announced. It's not completely rolled out yet. Maybe I'll make another video showing how it impacted my websites, but different tips I'd recommend following. Most importantly, create helpful content, understand search intent for the keyword that people are actually researching, whether it's like Google Ads assets. The main thing I try to do is say, okay, how can I answer the question, basically, what are Google Ads assets? What types of assets are there? Why should I care about them? How do I use them? What are some best practices? So you want to kind of go through what are the different questions people may have about this topic, and then just basically answer it one by one. Try to give helpful content in different ways, whether it's repurposing your blog post into a video or making sure that you're creating some helpful graphics that people can easily understand. You know, for example, a graphic based on Google Ads bidding strategies showing, okay, here is how maximize return on ad spend is going to, or maximize conversions is going to work. So going over some of those different things using not just written content, but also visual content as well. So obviously a lot of work to do on the Surfside PPC blog, so I'll get back to it. But if you have any questions about this, please leave them in the comment section. Keep creating helpful content. Don't be afraid to use AI content, but it does need to be reviewed. Don't just copy and paste. So thank you for watching my video today, and make sure you subscribe to the Surfside PPC YouTube channel.